Okay, I want you guys to refer to the second page, which starts in 2007. It's going to be under the headline Renovation and Installation. Now, before we begin, there's a few words that you're going to need to know and put into your vocabulary journal that you will come across as we read this text. The first one is going to be gallery. Now, a gallery is nothing more than a room or a building for the display of works of art, which is what you guys are going to be seeing tomorrow when we go on our field trip to the Met to view the Greek and Roman artifacts. The second term you guys are going to want to know is classical periods. This is the period in history that we are going to be examining at the museum. And the classical period, while it's up for debate, it roughly, a lot of historians generally agree that it's from 1400 BC to 600 BC. So about 800 years. The last one is civic life. Now, civic life refers to the public life of a citizen concerned with the affairs of the community and the nation. At this point, if I was teaching a class, I would ask them how civic life is different from personal life. I would have them probably reread this sentence a few times, give them about 1 or 2 minutes of wait time, probably have them write down their answer for what they think personal life is, and come up with an argument for how it's different from civic life. Once we discussed it, generally speaking, we would come up with a definition of personal life as being different from civic life in that personal life is devoted to the pursuit of private and personal interests. So to explain to them that while they might see some aspects of personal life at the Met Museum tomorrow when they go, most likely they're going to see artifacts or works of art or literature pieces that has to do with the civic life instead of personal life. So now that we got our words in our student vocabulary journal, we will go close read this text. Make sure we get our highlighter as well. So in 2007, the museum completed a 15-year master plan to renovate the exhibition spaces for Greek and Roman art and reinstall the collection. So have them underline exhibition and explain to them, this will be a foot in the door word, and just explain to them that an exhibition is nothing more than the presentation of the artifacts, very similar to a gallery. So the gallery is the whole museum. Exhibition might be special spots reserved for special collections. The first phase was achieved in June of 1996. with the opening of the Robert and Renee Belfer Court for prehistoric and early Greek art. So I'd want them to highlight this, Renee and Robert Belfer Court, as a point of emphasis for them to put down in their journals that they would be taking with them tomorrow, to be on the lookout for this exhibition at the museum. The second phase, 7 galleries for Greek art of the Archaic and Classical periods, opened in April of 1999. Since we've already defined these as our critical before words, we don't need to talk about the definition of either of these as we read, but now that we have a better understanding of them, it gives us a better understanding of what this second phase was here at the museum that opened in 1999. Archaic would be a word that could cause some confusion. I would explain to them that archaic means just classical, old, historic. These will all be very good synonyms for archaic. With objects arranged in a new contextual display combining works of different media, the new Greek galleries present such themes as religion, funerary customs, civic life, and athletics in magnificent Beaux Art spaces created for the collection between 1912 and 1917 by the architecture firm of McKim, Mead, and White. So we just read quite a bit here. However, what I would want them to focus on is the types of arts that you are going to be seeing at the museum tomorrow. Specifically, Beaux Art spaces. Now, Beaux Art spaces is the decorative style of the classical period. So this would be a very good foot in the door word for us to discuss. So characteristics of Beaux Art is a lot of the artwork was very sculptured. For example, in the architecture, there's a lot of attention to fine detail. So there might be sculptures in baseboards, doorway trim, anything that outlines the room would probably be very hand carved. It wouldn't be flat like we see today on our baseboards or our toe trim or anything like that. It's usually very sculptured, detailed. I would have students try to explain or think if they have any trim or architecture in their own home that's very detailed, that's not so much as detailed as some of the other parts of their house. I would probably have them look around the room and explain, see if they could find any Beaux Art styles in the classroom. They're not going to. Classrooms are usually very flat, not detailed. So from there, we would also want to have a discussion on not just Beaux Arts, but also perhaps we can touch upon the religion. We could touch upon some of the funerary customs. I would have to look up and find out exactly which types of customs and the religion were acknowledged during that time. Those would be more foot in the door kind of words, since we're not focusing on either of them during this lesson. Civic life was a good one. It was one of our critical before words, so they should already know that one. As well as I can give them a brief synopsis of the athletics of that time as well. So moving on, the grand barrel vaulted gallery in the center of the installation, now known as the Mary and Michael Jaharis Gallery is one of New York City's great interior spaces, flooded with natural light and ideal for exhibiting large scale marble sculpture, bronzes, and vases. So this, just like Robert and Renee Belfort Court, is another area I would want them to focus upon. Write in their journals and keep an eye on that. The department's extensive collection of Cypriot art returned to view in April of 2000 in 4 newly renovated galleries on the second floor. Now, Cypriot art, this will be another foot in the door word. This is not something that they're going to is essential for this unit, something that we're going to focus on. I would explain to them that Cypriot art is art that was derived from the Cyprus region, and Cyprus is just a small island in the northeast corner of the Mediterranean Sea. So in addition to some of the Greek and the Roman collections, that they will see some Cypriot art. So I would hammer home in class to really critically analyze what region some of the art forms were from, and some of the sculptures, paintings, or any other artifacts that they come across in the gallery. I really want them to focus upon where it's from and only really focus on the Greek and Roman aspects, but I do want them to still look at this to see how it might compare or contrast to it as well. An excellent transitional activity after this closed exercise would be to bring up some examples of Cypriot art and then some examples of the Greek and Roman art, and see if they can have a discussion on anything that compares and contrasts between them. So moving on, the reinstallation culminated in April of 2007 with the opening of spaces for Hellenistic, Etruscan, South Italian, and Roman art. Hellenistic is a very significant word, one that we are not going to focus on in this lesson, but is still significant nevertheless. So usually this is going to be a critical before word as well as probably a critical after word, something that you're really going to want to hammer home. Normally in other units of study, for the purpose of this one, this is going to be a foot in the door word. Hellenistic just refers to the spread of Greek culture that began after the conquest of Alexander the Great. So Hellenistic refers to just the spreading of the Greek culture across the Middle Eastern region after Alexander the Great conquered. So moving on, with more than 5,300 objects on view in an area of more than 30,000 square feet, the focal point is on the Leon Levy and Shelby White Court, a monumental skylit peristyle for the display of Hellenistic and Roman art with a soaring 2-story atrium. There's a lot to focus on here. So the Leon and Levy and Shelby White Court is going to be similar to the Robert and Renee Court and the Mary and Michael Court, where that is going to be something that they're going to want to mark down in the journals as a point of emphasis to go check out. In addition, they're going to want to, here we can refer back to the Hellenistic again. They're going to want to refer to the atrium. Atrium is an excellent foot in the door word. Atrium is nothing more than just a large opening space inside of a building that provides natural light and ventilation. Something that they're really going, this is a critical word, one of the 5 essential words that I chose, because atrium is not just something that they're going to see at the museum on their gallery walk. It's something that they're going to see in their everyday modern life, as it is still a very common architectural practice today. Maybe not so much in homes, but definitely in public work buildings, such as town halls, maybe fire halls might have them, libraries probably have some atriums. Some atrium is definitely a critical word that will begin as a foot in the door word, and I can easily see us having a discussion on this as a afterword as well. So we can almost make this a foot in the door word and a critical afterword as well. Wrapping it up, the new galleries present the most important and familiar masterworks in the Greek and Roman collection. Now, you're going to want to, I would tell my students, they're going to want to highlight this entire sentence and put a star next to it, because this sentence right here is the rationale for why we are close reading this text piece and we're going on our gallery walk tomorrow at this specific museum. So this museum at the Met presents the most important and familiar masterworks in the Greek and Roman collection. Masterworks is probably the key word here. What do you think the term masterworks means? After some class discussion, I would hope to transition and lead this into students identifying that masterworks, in their own understanding of it, just means very important or best of the best. So I want them to walk away with the rationale of reading this close reading text, that this is an excellent text for them to read as a transitional piece before they go and do the gallery walk, because what they're going to be looking at tomorrow is the most comprehensive collection of the best of the best of the Greek and Roman collections. There's no other museum in the world that houses better exhibits that signify and symbolize the values and the significance of the Greek and Roman cultures, which is going to transition right into them comparing and contrasting the art and artifacts of this classical culture with the modern culture that they live in today within their own local region.